Hey everybody, it's Everett with Ohio for Freedom, the program that is focused for the foreseeable future on talking about things in the church that really should not be in the church, but we wholeheartedly believe are in the process of getting out of the church, and so we're looking forward to that day where we can make a little bit of a course adjustment and change focus a bit. But in the meantime, we're going to be faithful, going to be on mission, and so thank you for being here. We really, really appreciate it. I'm going to jump right in. There is a lot of material to go through tonight. And helping me to digest all of this with expertise and sophistication is Robyn of Maniacs. Robyn, I think we've met before. How are you today?
I'm good, Everett. How are you?
Number one, the bait is your kindness. Stop acting ugly to people that have been ugly to you.
Is Rod Parsley the apostle of kindness? No. But why would we even ask the question? Well, for starters, you just heard him admonish his audience to win people by kindness. So, does Rod Parsley practice kindness? Take a look at his interaction with low-level but very important groundskeeping staff, and you decide.
Mixtures in the right place for the camera shots. Could we wake up? And you people want to go to Israel and do a shoot? You can't do one on the property. Why am I bringing volunteers out here to do your own stuff?
So far, the case for Rod Parsley practicing kindness isn't going so well, but let's give it another chance. Here's an audio of a staff meeting. Now, this meeting would be attended by higher-level employees than just lowly groundskeeping staff, so maybe the kindness level would be higher.
Who called me?
Megan.
You didn't.
Right, I didn't call me. But I was in the meeting. I'm sorry.
Then here's not we.
Okay.
I know who called the meeting because I told them to.
Yes.
Because I knew you wouldn't. And you didn't.
But we're ready for baptism.
No, you're not.
I can. Well,
No, you're not.
Well, let me walk you through.
It's going to take me 10 minutes to prove to you you're not.
Okay, then. Whatever you say, sir.
Are you being smug with me?
No, I'm not. I'm saying whatever you
Don't.
say. I'm not being smug. No, I'm not.
Don't.
I'm not.
One more person grins at me, one more person smirks at me in this room, it will be the last one of you that does it. The money that is being spent in this room is obscene for what I'm getting. Obscene. I hired people to run entire sections of this place, not hold their hand through a baptism. Much less what I just went through. Are you ever going to learn not to backtalk me?
Okay, so that didn't go so well either. Now, the two clips we just examined have been circulated, almost gone viral in the last several days. So you would think that if Rod had become aware of this, that he would have occasion to pause, reflect, and perhaps apologize, take responsibility, and amend his ways. Let's check out the most recent sermon after these clips went viral and see if that is the case.
Some folks will say, well, I can't believe a man of God would do that. Well, there wasn't nobody videoing me 2 minutes later in a pool of tears, calling for people to come and pray with me so I could repent. You are motivated of a demon spirit. I said, stop it. You're a devil. Stop it. I said, stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
Does that sound like contrition to you, or is it gaslighting and deflection? So the title, Apostle of Kindness, doesn't really seem to fit, does it? But why use the designation of apostle in the first place? Well, in the summer of 2015, Rod Parsley actually became an apostle. Now, you may have thought that an apostle had to be someone who had actually seen the Lord, or that there are apostles today, but they have to be called and separated into the office of apostle by the Lord himself. But that's not how it happened. In 2015, during a miracle prayer cloth service, Kenneth Copeland prophesied, or, well, just proclaimed Rod as an apostle. It only took a few minutes. Don't believe it? Watch.
Yes, I will. I'll tell him. Thank you, Lord. Yeah, I'll tell him. Yeah, you better come here. Come stand right there. You were walking over in and touching the anointing of the apostle, according to the word of the Lord that came to me just a moment ago. I set my hands on you and separate you to that anointing and into the office of the apostle.
Now, please, think about this. Kenneth Copeland considers himself a prophet. Now, whether you believe that or not, ask yourself this. Can a prophet prophesy or proclaim someone to be an apostle? Is apostleship something a preacher grows into after a period of time? Is it a privilege one earns after they have taken so many successful offerings? Now, these may seem to be silly questions, but doesn't it seem equally silly to just accept the notion that a pastor can become an apostle just because a guest speaker who considers himself a prophet says so? But let's take a moment and look at the setting in which this apostolic proclamation took place. So, this is an annual event at Rod Parsley's church, the annual prayer cloth miracle service. But is this even remotely scriptural? To answer that, let's just analyze quickly the dynamics around how this annual miracle prayer cloth service actually works. Rod Parsley mails out little pieces of cloth, hope he got a good deal on them, to his mailing list. The mailing is actually an appeal to send the prayer cloth in with a prayer request along with an offering of at least $50. Then, when the prayer cloth is returned to World Harvest Church along with at least $50, the prayer request is added to all the other prayer requests that came in with an offering of at least $50 and placed in this giant display with a giant cross that is used every year. Or maybe it's just that people send in an offering of at least $50 and then the pieces of cloth get sent out, something like that. After that, they've been prayed over, or prayed over by who? Well, anyway, it's something like that. But to get in on it, you have to send in at least $50. That's for sure.
That doesn't make any sense!
So it's easy to think of a few questions about that, but we will get to those in a moment. But where did the prayer cloth idea even come from? Well, in Acts chapter 19, verses 11 and 12, it tells us that God did extraordinary miracles through the hands of Paul, so that even handkerchiefs and aprons that had touched him were taken to the sick, and the diseases and evil spirits left them. So cloths were taken from Paul's person, and evil spirits departed, and diseases were healed. Where does the money come into all this? But wait, we're ahead of ourselves. Based on this scripture, where do prayer requests come in? Did people mail a letter to Paul and he sent a cloth to them? Or did Paul demand at least a minimum offering? Don't think so. And then the miracle cloths that Rod Parsley sends are for all sorts of miracles, not just healing in spirits. So where does that come from? Maybe it's in there somewhere and we just can't see it. Otherwise, we might think it was just a gimmick. But maybe it's worth exploring this gimmick notion just a bit further. Robyn is a former human resources professional for World Harvest Church. On a recent episode of her podcast, Maniacs, she had this to say about the prayer requests.
There were these stacks, of envelopes, and I'm, asking questions. What are those? And oh, that's for the stage during prayer call season. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Well, they put these on the stage and they put a cross over it, but they say that they're filled with prayer requests, and And so I grabbed one of the stacks, and they look kind of something like this. Okay. So there's like, I counted it, I don't know, like 175 to 200, envelopes. Okay. And I started, sifting through them, and, I noticed that either every envelope had the exact same name on it, or the envelopes were blank. There's nothing inside of the envelope. All of these prayer claws that are being sent out to give people a miracle, and it's based on lies.
So one could hardly be blamed for wondering if all those envelopes surrounding that giant cross are even real.
There are people that are writing in and calling in for prayer, but this is not what is being pictured online. It's not being shown on the broadcasts. It's fake.
Well, real prayer requests or not, rest assured the money collected is real. But if the prayer requests aren't real, and if there really aren't hundreds of thousands of them,
to these
Jesus.
hundreds of thousands of requests.
and it's all just a giant theatrical display, wouldn't a prophet that could prophesy apostleship unto someone be at least a little embarrassed that they had prayed over these fake prayer requests? Or wouldn't a prophet of that stature, able to prophesy apostleship unto someone, maybe have an awareness that the whole thing was just a prop? Wouldn't simply abiding by ethical principles cause someone to do due diligence and make sure that prayer requests really were prayer requests and not theatrical props that get used year after year after year?
I'm, asking questions. What are those, and oh, that's for the stage during prayer call season.
Maybe we shouldn't be too quick to consider Kenneth Copeland as a prophet, at least not an accurate one. Remember in 2020 when he stood in the office of the prophet of God and pronounced COVID was over?
Standing in the office of the prophet of God, I execute judgment on you, COVID-19. I execute judgment on you, Satan, you destroyer, you killer. You get out. We break your power. You get off this nation. I demand judgment on you. I demand a vaccination to come immediately.
Yes.
No more. Is finished. It is over.
Yeah, he really did that. But was COVID over? That would be a no. But that didn't stop him from blowing a heat wave all over the United States and anywhere else in the world it was needed to burn this thing.
Today, we speak to this atmosphere.
We speak to this atmosphere.
Wind. Almighty. Strong. South wind. Heat. Burn this thing. COVID-19. I blow the wind of God. On you. You are destroyed forever. And you'll never be back.
Yeah, the only problem with burn this thing is that the heat wave never happened and this thing never got burned. But after all, that was 5 years after he had pronounced the apostleship on Rod, so maybe in 2015 he was on his A game after all. Who knows?
Stop it!
So what do you think? Is Rod Parsley an apostle of kindness, or just a guy that's really good at coming up with lucrative offering ideas? Now, to be fair, Rod Parsley has never claimed to be an apostle of kindness. But when Kenneth Copeland prophesied apostleship onto him, he nodded his head in agreement. So unless he has recanted, he'd like you to consider him an apostle. You saw that interaction with staff just a moment ago.
In the right place for the camera shots. Yes, sir. Could we wake up?
Is that the behavior of a real apostle? Does an apostle treat low-level and higher-level staff like that? Does an apostle come up with slick offering gimmicks and sell prayers and miracles? This video really isn't about Rod Parsley or Kenneth Copeland or prophets prophesying apostleship onto pastors who take goofy offerings and routinely abuse staff and volunteers. What it's really about is, why do so many Christians, especially Christians who believe in the supernatural, continue to put up with and support this kind of nonsense? If the Lord were to send earth-shattering awakening and revival today, are we really ready?
Robyn, there is somebody that is going to learn what I'm going to ask you to inform us of. They're going to hear it for the first time. But has Rod Parsley ever had a firearm discharge during one of his staff meetings?
Yes, it's my very first episode called The Smoking Gun. Yes. Yeah. And depending on who you speak with, I spoke with 3 different pastors that were in that room when it happened. 2 of them believe that it was definitely an intimidation tactic that he was using. The other pastor said that he thought that Rod got bored in this meeting and he started fiddling around with his gun and it accidentally went off. But regardless, why do you need a gun in a staff meeting? Why do you need a gun at a church? Why do you need a gun that also houses a school, which is a weapon-free zone?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, I got to keep this rolling.
Years have been there. One of them was, well, your first episode, the smoking gun. Mm-hmm. My dad was there for that.
He was in that meeting.
He was in that meeting
where Rod shot the gun off.
My dad was there. It was a yearly planning meeting that started at 9 a.m. and the gun went off around 11 p.m. As I know you know, and he was there, and I remember him telling me that he was thankful Miss Lisa called in sick that day, because if not, she could have been injured because the bullet fell in the chair right where she would have been sitting.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so shocked that they're back. I mean,
There's not a meeting without verbal beating. Maybe one sparsely here and there, but 2 a week, every Tuesday and Friday morning, 9 a.m. Everybody stinks, nobody's doing anything, nobody's working hard enough, we're children, everybody needs a pay cut. The usual, everybody stinks, there's a unicorn outside my window, and it's your fault. So, another gun story. So, supposedly the daughter tried to commit suicide. That's the story that we've been all told for years, right? And he was yelling and carrying on so bad one day. It was typical. That day, I think, might have been the day where he was yelling and he says, just go get a broom and do something productive. This is his executive staff team at the church. He's telling us just to be productive because we're so awful getting nothing done. And when I tell you, you couldn't find harder working people who are more dedicated, put up with more, produce more in the most awful of circumstances. And he said, we all need to just get up and go get a broom and sweep and do something productive. So he's yelling and hitting the table so hard that the gun that he has stored under the table, it falls on the floor and it falls right by Ashton's feet. And that was supposedly the gun that she had just used almost used to commit suicide.
And this audio was taken secretly in 2020. And there are going to be a few clips that I'm playing tonight from that. So here we go, you guys.
Like, I live in this state of hypervigilance where I'm always afraid something's going to get out, and the ramifications of that and what that means for me, my family. You know, and I'm not sitting here trying to play some fiddle like woe is me, but at the same time, just where I can identify with some of the things that like you go through, you don't know what it's like to have your face splattered across the news for, you know, voter fraud. Like, you don't know what it's like to have people know that you're being investigated by children's services. You know, it's like, you don't know what it's like to have a stalker for 3 years. And all of those things are as a result of or connected back to that place, the church, my family. And so I always, like, I go into this mode of like protect at all costs. And it doesn't matter who you have to lie to. There's always a party line. There's always got to be a strategy. And my life has always been this impossible game of like chess and Tetris and trying to figure out who fits where, what fits where, who can I tell what. And a lot of it too is insecurity, like fear of being judged, looked at differently, seen as less than, and that fear of the blurred line where it's like, if I tell them this, they'll no longer respect me as like any type of spiritual authority, or they'll no longer respect my position at the church. And my instinct is to always protect that first instead of protect Ashton. And it's a really tough, like, it's a really tough line to toe, because I've never felt like my life is mine. I've never felt like I have room to make mistakes. That's why there's so many like lies and hiding and double life and all of that, because I've never had room to make mistakes, and when I do, it's immediately, it's not how can we help our daughter, it's how can we interpret this and, you know, smooth this over, and how do we cover it up, you know, like we interpret this and, you know, smooth this over, and how do we cover it up, you know, like with my suicide attempt, like my dad, even though he's proud of me for being brave, like he would rather I'd never shared that, because to him, that's a slight on him as a father and a pastor. Like, you let your daughter get to that point, so you failed. And those are the kinds of things that I struggle to navigate and negotiate. And I've just always, since I was a little kid, had to think about, what do I share? What do I not? What's too much? What's not enough?
Sometime before. So she starts crying, and at that point the meeting was adjourned for the second time. There are many, many, many times over the years where he gets so worked up where Megan will say, we need to take a break. We leave the room, We come back in 45 minutes, an hour or so, and continue on. And so we all left the room, and may or may not have circled back later that day. But yeah, that was the second gun story. He hit the desk so hard that it fell out of its holder onto the floor by Ashton's feet and freaked her out because she had just almost used it to commit suicide not too long before that.
So I played those audio clips back to back because I thought they were very, very relevant. And hopefully, as we move through this entire episode, you're going to kind of see how all of this plays in together. And Jim and Tammy, the PTL Chronicle, said Ashton expects compassion but gives none. And I agree with that. I have seen it firsthand, and it's absolutely disgusting the way that Rod and Ashton treat people, period. So I'm going to now play this audio from the staff member that was actually in the meeting. And again, the voice is distorted to not reveal their identity.
It was January of 2019, possibly the last week in December of 2018, and we were doing a day of yearly planning for 2019. We began in the exec conference room that morning at 09 a.m., and we had gone all day until about 11 p.m., that's right 11 p.m. Over 12 hours, and it had been your typical day of, at that time, raised voice, yelling. It had been your typical day of yelling. No one's doing anything. Nobody's working. Everyone's standing around counting ceiling tiles. No one's doing anything right. People crying. People plural. From top execs to pastors there on staff, in the exec conference room, about 12 plus people in the room. And so it was about 11 something at night, and he was sitting in his chair, and he had his gun out. At that time, he still may, but at that time, he kept a gun under his side of the exec desk, and he pulled it out, and he was fooling around with it, and he shot it. It went off. Jay was standing up at the whiteboard in the conference room. There's a TV in the center that we play things on, put things up on that screen, and there's a whiteboard on either side. Jay was standing up on the whiteboard to the left of the TV for looking at it, and he was writing numbers and stats and that kind of thing, plans we were coming up with. And when the gun was fired, the bullet hit the television right next to Jay Baldwin. If Jay would have been a foot over, it could have killed him. He would have been shot at minimum. It hits the TV, shattered the television that of course had to be taken down and replaced with a new TV. The bullet bounces off of that now broken TV and goes and lands in what was an empty chair that day of Lisa's. At that point Lisa was to quit within a couple weeks, and she was just at the top of it all and way over it. And there's no way that she could take another day of verbal beating, and the bullet bounces off the TV and landed in the chair where she would have been sitting but was absent that day. And she had done what she and others had often done and do when they just cannot physically or mentally take an hour to 3 a day of verbal and emotional beating. She played sick, and she stayed home that day, and it was a good thing that she did, because that bullet landed in her chair. So, fast recap yearly planning meeting. He fires off a gun, it hits the television, almost hits Jay, breaks the TV, bullet lands in the chair where Lisa would have been sitting, and we all sat there. I mean, a number of people yelled and was like, oh my god, we sat there in amazement, shocked that had just happened. A few wept, not the first time of the day, and we went maybe another hour after that, and then went home.
But I would be back in this ready room, door shut, alone, with Rod Parsley, doing his hair, brushing his beard, putting makeup on his face, primer, which means I'm taking product, putting it in my hands and rubbing his face. Granted, it's makeup, it's hair, it is my job currently. It's not inherently weird, I suppose, but the context of it, the fact that I am 21 years old, I'm a student, you didn't hire me to do hair. the fact that you're just asking a random employee essentially to do this, that's what made it weird. So I remember putting his makeup on and I'm thinking, this is odd. I am a college student. I'm probably the only person in this whole campus that has touched his face. You're not allowed to talk to him unless he talks to you. And here I am putting my fingers through his beard, through his hair. It was weird. Just, why am I washing his hair? And it made
Washing his hair is, I
right.
mean, this is a very, you know, it's very intimate, you know, as
Intimate.
far as I'm concerned. And again, I know people that are, you know, in show business and maybe they don't think this much, but just picture a 21-year-old young college student is leaning over we're talking inches,
right,
from his face, washing his hair, putting your hands in his hair and on his face and through his beard. And during this time, I mean, is he talking to you? Are his eyes closed? I mean,
well,
that's already you know,
right,
weird and creepa, as he
right.
would say, you know, but
Well,
it's very strange.
I want to preface this. This was also when they're telling me, do your hair, do your makeup, wear your fancy shoes, wear dresses. You got to look good. So here I am, not to toot my own horn, but a pretty young girl
Yes,
rubbing all over
you
this
are.
old man's
Yeah.
face. His eyes are closed.
Mhm.
It's not weird when I'm at my salon at work doing this, but it's weird in this context. His eyes are closed. He would talk to me sometimes a little bit about my tattoos, which I guess is technically talking about my body in a way. It's just so many things when you put them all together in this context, it's makes it gross. It wouldn't maybe be gross normally, but it is in this way. Eyes closed, um, totally relaxed, and it's just not a state in which I wish to see my pastor, my boss. He's not just he's my professional, he's my boss. Um, somebody, a role model in which I looked up to when I was young. Very, very weird. It messed with me a lot mentally, just thinking, is this normal? No, yes, this is normal. This isn't weird, right? Just a lot of mental turmoil within myself trying to make sense of what's going on. And you
Well, and
pair
then
that,
being alone, you know, being
right,
alone in the ready room, which is like a green room, being alone in there, being alone in his apartment,
right.
because you know, and I've discussed this before too. I was human resources, okay? And
Mhm.
if I needed to have a meeting or an interview or whatever the case was with a male, I could not even shut my door. Even in a
Mhm.
confidential meeting, I could not shut my door all the way because you were not supposed to even give the illusion of
Right.
impropriety, right? and
Exactly.
and and here he is not following even his own rules.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And even though I was, more on board at that point, I was still trying to find the good in everything. Benefit of the doubt. I still remember thinking, this is odd. I'm Even if he wasn't my boss or pastor or anything like that, it's odd that I'm a young girl alone in a very compromising position with an sorry, but old man. It's weird. And there were a couple times where I was alone, one on one with him.
Well, and being told that you have to dress cute and look cute.
Right.
I mean, that's that's verging on issues with EEOC and that sort of thing, like where you're being you know, sexualized and
Right.
dehumanized.
I felt like, you know, as I've processed these experiences in the years after or the months after even, I would I would think about some of these situations and think, I kind of feel like I was just, in a way, just a pretty girl to keep around and have just do stuff. Like, I did feel in a way sexualized and just it's inappropriate things, and it caused a lot of confusion on my part, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that you even mentioned, we don't have to really go into deep detail on this, but I think that you mentioned that at some point you did have to go and get some counseling and or talk to a therapist, and
Yes.
that this counselor or therapist basically told you that that I think it was a female, that she thought
Yes.
that you were being groomed, or it
Absolutely.
sounded like grooming behavior to see what you would and would not rebel.
Get a little clearer. And so I'm saying all that. So what's going on over the years is Pastor Parsley, in my experience in the early years, whatever the bottom line to improve the net was, he was behind. So like, is he making good decisions? If you were judging based on, is he doing it based on, are we making a positive change or not? The answer was pretty much always yes, most of the time, at least in the world that I was responsible for. But when we were going, like, they got very, very, very aggressive in asking and mailing and stuff. And in 2007, they said it fell off a cliff. That was used; those words were used a lot. And money started. That was when they thought they were going to 100 million, and all of a sudden it was a drop, and things started to go down. Since that time, there have been repeatedly every single person I know that does analysis and gives pastor advice on this type of thing, we're all in unison that we needed to cut television spending, that it was a waste of money, that by all the metrics we've used for years, it was not working, and we need to stop doing it. And the only person that adamantly never let that happen was Rod Parsley. I mean, that happened when they had to. Like, it was literally like, we're not going to, like, World Harvest is not cash rich. Like, there's been the number of times I've seen where they're trying to figure out how to get payroll, or, you know, or the earning, or the school money that they get for all the ed choice didn't show up when they thought it was going to show up, and all of a sudden it was like, we don't have money to pay stuff. You know, and it's just crazy. But for the years I could never, and I mean all the way up until recently, that's just been the climate. We just keep being on TV, and the response has just got abysmal. I mean, really, I think
well, and they spend, I mean, if I'm looking at one of these reports correctly, I mean, they spend over $1 million a year just to be on TV, correct?
Oh yeah, it's been millions in the past. That's like TBN and Daystar are at a whole nother level of money to pay for. TBN informed Pastor Parsley that he was not allowed to be on their network because of his aggressive tactics. They tried making rules to limit it.
Begging for money.
And he would try to get as close to the rules without breaking them. And little by little, they just eventually said, nope, you're out of here. You're not on. In that moment, I watched Pastor Parsley go from having nothing but been positive about TBN and the Crouches to airing all kinds of dirty laundry about them in the meeting, that he apparently knew all this time, but wasn't saying anything. And now he's like ready to disclose it all. I'm not going to repeat it. But that's not isolated. I mean, the Lambs eventually got him off Daystar, or off of the 10 a.m. Like, it was always said Joni didn't really like him being on before her show, Joni Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's still on Daystar, but maybe
he is, but
not
not the
before
10
her.
a.m., which was the real lucrative one. Within
Okay.
2 days of Mr. Lamb passing, we received notice that we no longer had the 10 a.m. shot on Daystar.
Yeah. And he was, I mean, he had the Lambs have been to World Harvest, and him and Ashton did several programs with.
Yes, we welcome not only Pastor Rod Parsley, but his daughter, Ashton. Okay.
Hello, lovely.
Now, we have got two fun things to see today. We've got Pastor Rod Parsley with the beard.
Yes.
And we've got Ashton with her Joseph's
with her
coat of many colors.
Her coat of many colors hair.
I like that.
Yes.
I like that. I asked Israel earlier if I looked like a My Little Pony. But then I had to correct myself and say, never mind, boys don't play with My Little Pony.
Yeah,
So.
he didn't know what you were talking about, but he does love his
Marcus and Joni Lamb. And so maybe the connection was Rod and Marcus. And then when he subsequently, unfortunately, passed away, then she became in the sole decision maker and took him out of that spot.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't know that, but that's what it appeared to be.
Cheers. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was like in the midst of all that, you just lost your husband. The first thing you're doing is get him off this show. Like, it seems a little odd.
Yeah. Well, but we also know, just based on the recordings and conversations that we've heard on other podcasts, that she was very aware of the situation with Robert Morris and the 12-year-old Cindy Clemenshire, and disclosed in a meeting that he was getting ready to be taken down because he molested this young girl, and it's like they all know this information on each other, but they don't disclose it, or they don't do anything about it until they're upset, or their reputation might be at stake.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I've always been perplexed to understand why those decisions, because I mean, it was like we're bleeding money bad. Like, we're like the standard by which we would have cut it off. Like, we blew by that years ago and we're still going. And it's never made sense. And to anyone I've worked with, another thing you have is in that same file number 2, there's a series of notes that are the August 2019 marketing notes.
Okay, I see that. Yep.
This is a meeting that was had in the strategic planning time, and Pastor Parsley wasn't there, but everyone else that kind of really speaks into this stuff in any way, especially with TV was. So that was Steve. He was there. Megan Hassett, Mark Beal, Jay Baldwin. Amanda was there taking notes, taking the minutes. Dale Berkey and me.
Yep.
And there's numerous things that can read in there, but the ones that are the most important are get to the right spot here. I mean, it's an interesting meeting.
I mean, I see some things highlighted, one being...
Those were just action items. The highlights aren't.
Yes.
Yeah, those aren't highlighted.
But we do what we do by faith. And thank you to our supporters that go to ohioforfreedom.com and take advantage of our PayPal link or our bank card link. We get a really, really good rate on our bank card exchange. Thank you, Aaron, who set that up for us. Our Zelle link, we do not get an email so that we can send you a thank you, so we say thank you in advance. And there are lots of folks that still like to use good old-fashioned snail mail, and we have a Ohio for Freedom P.O. Box, P.O. Box 344, Mason, Ohio 45040. And so until next time, folks, God bless you. Good night, everybody.